Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives podcast. I'm your host, Justin Phillips, and with me, as always, the one and only, the guy who makes this show run, Shadow Governor Voss.
Robin Voss's strongest soldier.
So we have a hodgepodge of interesting articles and news and topics that came out of the state of Wisconsin this week, and we have to admit, my friend, we hit a bit of a technical glitch going in, and we had a lot of content ready to go, and computers decided to do unfortunate computer things, so we may have lost some spicy takes, but we're going to bring it to you tonight.
My disappointment is incalculable. For all those Windows users, Windows 12 is upon us. My computer is ancient, so if a sponsor wants to come in and help out, it would be much appreciated. I can write it off on as my taxes as a business expense. That being said, that computer decided to restart in the middle of the recording. And of course, nothing else saved. Of course, the recording that I saved as the test saved, but nothing else. So that's how that went. A lot of good content. We were in the home stretch, so I'm going to hopefully remember everything that we were talking about. The only problem is I'm now 3 bourbons in instead of just having the first bourbon. You know,
we were getting spicy.
Yeah, it was going well. So
it means we're going to start spicy.
So we're starting at the point that we usually end.
And so we're going to start with first article. First news bit came out this week. Secretary of State Sarah Godlewski has launched her bid for lieutenant governor. So Up and Up brand Leslie Knope is officially in the race for lieutenant governor.
Great Value Skeletor has entered the race for LG. And as we said previously in our previous recording, she's probably walked away with the LG race. It's probably a done deal. The Brad Pfaff, State Senator Brad Pfaff, was also discussed as a potential LG candidate along with Sarah Godlewski, but I don't see Brad trying to overstep a woman who's trying to break the glass ceiling here. So I don't see
the glass ceiling that's been broken by four other women in the lieutenant governors already.
We won't talk about that. But the fact is, Sarah Godlewski, probably the biggest name that's going to be the LG.
This is true.
So she's probably going to clear the field just with that.
It is the question we can ask is will there be another major candidate getting in the race for lieutenant governor, or could we see a Sarah and Sara ticket?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Sarah and Sara, the all-female ticket. It would be
the first for the state.
It would be the first, or a Kelda Sarah Kelda ticket. What if Kelda dropped down to lieutenant governor? No. She's above that. There's no way she would belittle herself to such a inconsequential office.
But it will highlight the fact that in this announcement article by Sarah Godlewski, said she's not running for this office because I need another title. I'm running for this office because I want to be part of a team that's not just going to win, but deliver for the state of Wisconsin. Now,
so hold on. Translation, blah, 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 blah. I'm running for U.S. Senate in 4 or 6 years. Hold on. Ron Johnson won in 22, so that means he's up in 28. Mm-hmm. Which means he's still got some time. Or Tammy,
yes,
in 6 years or 4 years, whatever. Time is a construct, and liquor is the aggressor. So, yes, Leslie Knope wants to run for lieutenant governor, but eventually U.S. Senate, which is why she's going to just keep her cards close and hopefully breeze through this.
No, but she has the Goldilocks position, where the just right amount of news that she can create for herself with doing any actual real work is the lieutenant governor's office. Even though the Secretary of State's office has no profile and no constitutional
except for
duties.
Like stamping some stuff every once in a while.
That's about it.
Some like land deeds.
Doesn't even run the elections in the state. Now, many other Secretary of States run the elections for their state. Sarah Godlewski doesn't even do that. The state, the Secretary of State doesn't do that. And we can talk about the fact that, maybe that's something that the state should consider is giving the Secretary of State more power or eliminating the role. I'm 50-50 on which direction that should go. Should they?
Well, we should have another episode where we talk about that. Maybe when it's slower, but then again, I don't know if it's ever going to be slow.
It never is. We always think it will be, and then...
it never happens.
Yep.
Maybe we should just go to being a bi-weekly podcast.
Oh, boy.
No, that's too much of a commitment. We'll figure that out.
It's too much bourbon.
Maybe, that would be a lot of bourbon. Then it would become a drinking problem. And we don't need that.
We just have a podcasting problem with a little bit of drinking. Then it's a drinking problem with a little bit of podcasting.
If a sponsor, what's the name of the liquor we're drinking again?
So we are drinking J. Henry, a great Wisconsin brand.
Do you want to sponsor us? We'll drink you every day or every week. Whichever works. That'd be great. Fantastic. LG. Back to LG. Sarah Godlewski, there you go.
So you think she has cleared the field? She's
cleared the field. I think it's probably Jover. I don't see anyone else really getting into it other than Brad Pfaff, but there's no way he's going to overstep her. Unless there's going to be some throwaway candidate, but there's no one that's going to be that. She's going to win. There's always 80% of the vote.
There's always the possibility that and probability that a third party, not third party, but the also ran type, the perennial candidate kook is going to get in the race. That's pretty common, but I think there's a chance that someone just doesn't want her to get a free pass and challenges her. But you're right. I think it's a really uphill battle for someone to match her name ID, match her financial commitment that she can make to a race.
Sorry, her husband's financial commitment.
Fair enough. That I think she does. She is the odds-on front runner. Yeah.
2-1, 3-1, whatever it is. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
We'll follow that. Obviously, thank you, Sarah, for giving us some news. Sidebar, completely unrelated.
Go on.
Sarah Rodriguez. Sorry, too many Sarahs in Wisconsin. Sarah Godlewski's signs, gotta love them. Green, yellow. Something about that green, it maybe brings me back to the Ron Johnson, but the yellow, giving the Packers colors, there's something with an identifier marker where it's just there's something that just resonates with Wisconsin. When I just instantly see those colors, yes, I like this. Yeah, I hate your politics, but I like your yard sign.
I wonder if it was consultants being oh, how do we pander without actually looking like we're pandering? And
Packers
colors, easy way to do it.
When I see Packers, I see Sarah Godlewski. Something like that. I don't know.
But I think there is something to be said about candidates that have non-traditional colors that don't just do the blue and the white and the red. It's something that's a bit more unique, stands out a bit more. I always like that. So you're not, I don't disagree with you there.
No, 100%. There's something we said about some of those unique yard sign or logos. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Duke Tucker. He has a great yard sign. Mm-hmm. Red and white, but it kind of looks like an old kind of trucker logo. It's hard to describe. You just kind of have to see it. I love it. It's very simple, but it looks clean. It looks better than probably 80% of those logos out there, which are very generic. Nothing against them. Nothing against those generic ones, but for kind of the atypical red and white Republicans yard signs and logos, it's a good logo. So shout out to Sarah Godlewski for having a great logo and
there's one thing she
winning
got right.
some brownie points from my hacky self.
And so that's not the only candidate, she's the only declared candidate, but not the only person that is being talked about as a candidate for higher office this week. So the Wisconsin Assembly Socialists are emboldened with hopes that they can capitalize on the momentum from Minnesota and New York mayoral races. This is from Wisconsin Public Radio, suggesting that the one and only Madison State Representative Francesca Hong seriously consider running for governor.
Please do. Yes. I endorse. Do I need to endorse? I'll endorse. Now, I'm not the only Republican right-leaning person that wants Francesca to run. Mm-hmm. J.R. Ross reported earlier this week on the 18th, 26 News, Francesca Hong is seriously considering a bid for gov. quote, I am really taking that seriously, what bold progressive leadership can do for the state. The top comment, God, I hope so. From a Republican.
Well, it does speak to the fact that Governor Evers, having worked closely with the Republicans in the legislature and gotten 2 budgets with majority Republican votes, did leave the door open for something of a far left candidate. And Francesca Hong embodies that.
There could be a few candidates that embody that.
There could be a few, but she, she seems to be the one that's getting the most attention right now. Now, the socialist movement in general has a lot of hills and a lot of obstacles to get through because, as the word itself, or labeling yourself as a socialist, isn't viewed very highly.
Nope.
With
doesn't poll well.
The general electorate. She's also someone that is from the most liberal part of Madison. Don't know how she resonates with outstate voters or any voters that aren't the left-wing Marxist socialist that she is.
I do know that if she does try to run statewide, she will try to resonate with the outstate Hmong population because she tries to pass herself as kind of a fake Hmong person.
Really?
Despite the fact that she is extremely Korean. That's besides the point, but what's the Democrats are all race hustlers at the end of the day. So no big deal.
But she does have, she has a lot of obstacles that also include, name ID, money. Those are going to be big ones
Correct.
that she's going to have to overcome if she tries to go this route.
The
but
workers on her side.
Yeah, but the socialists.
I will go knock doors for Francesca Hong in deep blue Milwaukee and Madison if she runs.
We'll see how.
Take it to the bank right now. I'll get signatures for her.
We'll see how that goes. I think what's going to be challenging is, where's her lane outside of who does she get besides the Marxist socialists in Madison or Milwaukee? She doesn't resonate with many others outside of that. So how's she gonna actually carve out a spot in a primary?
I'd be very curious. This is kind of a random thought I just thought about. Rebecca Cook is kind of this interesting character right now in Wisconsin politics. Mm-hmm. She's ran a lot. She's lost a lot. She hasn't really won anything besides a primary. Mm-hmm. But she's getting... Obviously, they've coalesced around her for this time. And Bernie's now coming to Wisconsin to do events for her. It's tough because she hasn't won anything, so her endorsement doesn't carry as much weight. But she does have this weird appeal in Western Wisconsin, and the results from last election showed that. We'll see if that means people don't like DVO, or they just really like her, or they just dislike DVO. We'll figure that out more come November. But I'd be curious to see if someone like a Francesca Hong is looking to get an endorsement from one of these quote-unquote more moderate types. Or does Rebecca Cook not even play into that and say, well, I haven't even won my own race. I don't want to be endorsing socialists. Yeah. But then again, Bernie.
If Bernie's going to come in for Rebecca Cook, would he come in for Francesca Hong? Great question. Something we'll have to keep an eye out.
Exactly.
Something that I've talked about a little bit is I think other candidates are waiting for those endorsements to drop, or they think they're going to get them, and they haven't yet. But the one thing I want to bring up before we move on is, how does Francesca Hong get through a debate without swearing?
Oh, yeah. Big swearer, which not like Tony Evers.
Yeah, because Tony Evers says "damn," you think that's earth-shattering. It's the biggest swear he's ever said.
To be fair, the word "damn" is referring to damning someone to hell. So
I get it.
It is a big deal. But yes, when we're talking about four-letter bad words, there are worse.
You search Francesca Hong's X account, and it's there all the time. Yeah. And I know the Democrats, for this brief window, thought that swearing was their key to winning middle class voters or working class voters or young voters. I don't know why. There was some strategy that said that they needed to start swearing a lot, and it really didn't pay out because they've stopped doing it. And so that leads me to believe
their way of swearing is different, because if you go to an actual union job site and you listen to what the boys are proverbially talking about, you'd get canceled probably for what they're saying.
Sure.
In any Democrat circles. So it's really not the same quite of swearing.
No, because that swearing is like, it's peppered in, but it's not shoehorned in.
But then again, that would require a Democrat to actually go to a working class job site and actually know what the actual regular person is talking, sounding, or feeling at the time, which they don't do.
Well, as someone who's watched several episodes of The Bear, and as Francesca Hong is a chef, I'm sure those things are accurate, and the swearing in The Bear translates into real life restaurant operations. But so maybe she thinks she can get away with the swearing. I don't know. Like, someone's going to come in and say that can't happen anymore. So we'll see how.
Well, full disclosure, the worst thing about her is not her swearing; it's her politics.
Naturally,
so they're plenty bad, and she sent out a cryptic tweet this week about supporting Badger Care for All, and kind of in a somewhat, I'm announcing for governor.
Yeah, she's got that arms crossed picture, that Rosie the Riveter vibe sort of thing she's putting together. So maybe that's,
I was kind of thinking like the Lennon vibe, but still,
okay.
I understand what you're going for.
Yeah, she's got this look that's like trying to make herself look more gubernatorial, more statewide than certainly the pictures in the Wisconsin Public Radio do her justice. So with that, there was a poll put out by the incomparable Dan Schaefer the other day.
We'll spend just a half second on this. Dan Schaefer, our favorite content machine, Dan Schaefer, put out a very unofficial poll on his Twitter, which for 30,000 followers only gained 500 responses. Not super great. But I'm not here to harp on Twitter followers or engagement. He just put out a little tweet where he's saying, like, who would you support for governor? And
four options.
Josh Call, 30%. Sarah Rodriguez, 36%. David Crowley, 23%. Kelda Roys, who I voted for, 11%.
So you and I both.
So, yes, we are part of the Democrat electorate for the sake of this poll. And Sarah Rodriguez kind of running away with it because she's the only one that's announced.
Yes.
Josh Call, polling very high in this unofficial poll again.
For someone who's been completely quiet.
Yeah, take this with a heaping amount, dump truck load of salt poll. But one thing that we can acknowledge is Josh Call, completely absent. Where has he been? For example, we were talking about how Josh Call, if he wanted to keep his name in the news, could hold a press conference, give a line to the media on some of these lawsuits he's working on.
Yep.
What do we get? Kind of a canned press release every once in a while. This is happening. And it's forgettable. No one's talking about Josh Call. He's not getting on upfront talking about his positions.
But if he wanted to be on upfront, his press secretary would call Matt Smith and be like, if he wants to go on upfront, or any of the other Sunday shows.
He didn't even have to give a reason. He's like, we have this giant case we're working on.
Yeah. And then as that case, as he talks about that case, the interviewer asks him the obvious question of, are you thinking about running for governor? He says, well, we'll think about it.
Yeah, you give another canned response. Well, we're considering it greatly. Thank you. I'm talking to my people, and we haven't come to a decision yet. You'll know here soon. Mm-hmm. Boom. Then you have a week's worth of content of J.R. Ross and the Madison media picking it up and saying, Josh Call's considering running for governor.
And then he gets a fluff piece in one of the newspapers.
Yeah, then he gets an expose where he's got his arms crossed, sitting, I don't know, at
holding a law book.
Yeah. I mean, you know it. You've all seen it before.
Yep.
So, but no. What is there? Absolute radio silence. But who is Josh Call?
It says something that, you have the declared candidate leading. Makes sense. Josh Call, surprising second place in this. The two candidates that are probably closer to declaring in David Crowley and Kelda Roys being third and fourth in this poll. And I think the one that, again, is surprising the most is Kelda being fourth. Now, she has to be absolutely furious that Francesca Hong is getting all of the attention about being a Madison area candidate that's being kicked around when she herself has been hinting at running for governor for
years.
Yeah, several since the day Tony was inaugurated.
She lost the primary
and I've said this before, but I still think it's true that there's something going on in Democrat politics in Wisconsin that's holding her back. Whether it's a consultant not signing on to her campaign, whether it's a national figure not endorsing her, whether it's, again, the right people lining up behind her to work her race. There's something that she is not pulling together 100%. That's not giving her the confidence she needs to jump out there. Because if everything was aligned for her, she'd be out running. Because Sara Rodriguez has had 3 or 4 weeks where either she's gotten no news or she's gotten bad news. And, she stumbled out of the gates. She's otherwise been quiet. It's not exactly a field clearing campaign that she's running so far. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. It's probably one of the weakest we've ever seen in these early stages. So for Keldon to not seize this opportunity means that there's something going on in the Democrat circles that's not aligning for her.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. That's just kind of, I'll just let it stand as is. Again, I'm just gonna stick to, I'm waiting until Labor Day. Wait until that second week after September, and I'm hoping that 1 or 2 people drop. Mm-hmm. We'll see what that timing will shake out to, but I think Kelda's going to run. Crowley's going to run. Mm-hmm. I really want to know about the Francescas of the world. Are they just, is this a vanity project? Or are you just actually going to pull the trigger?
It's always nice to see your name in the news.
Of course.
And if some people are talking about you for a higher office than maybe you even ever thought of, it's got to feel good. And it's got to maybe think that maybe this is actually for me. Maybe I should actually do this.
Maybe I should psyop myself into believing that I can actually do this.
And I think that's where Francesca's at. And, we've talked about this before on the program, that there has to be someone from the Socialist Caucus that needs to seriously consider running, again, because Evers governed not as a far left, and at least cut deals with Republicans on the budget, did things that didn't align with the Democrat legislature. So I think there is that lane. I've said before, I think it's still going to come from a third party. And again, maybe that's my wish casting, that I think you might see a third party actual socialist.
Like a Palestine candidate.
Yeah, some college student from UW Milwaukee on the Free Palestine side, some Workers' Party sort of thing, some actual Democrat Socialist of America candidate that's going to pull the trigger and be a third party spoiler. But you got to think that, whether it's Francesca or Ryan Clancy or Chris Larson, like someone from that angle is going to see an opportunity to carve out a spot in the Democratic primary and drive the rest of them further to the left, which only helps Republicans, even though they probably can't see the forest through the trees.
Well, we'll wait till September. I guarantee it. I'll bet the house on it.
News is going to pick up on that soon.
News will pick up. At least one Democrat will announce him in September, maybe 2 if we're lucky.
Sure. So we'll see how that goes. But there is a new candidate that has announced that we should talk about. But before we get to him, need to talk about his opponent, Bryan Steil. Congratulations on your engagement. Saw that posted on X this afternoon. So credit to him and maybe his political staff, but to keep that quiet and get away with
we had no idea.
Yeah.
It is kind of one of those things where it's like, you have a girlfriend and you want to post about her, but you happen to be a congressman that is constantly harassed by Social Security Americans, and you can't really have a normal life.
Yeah.
So you have to have your personal life hidden away completely. So credit to them for keeping that under wraps.
So he did it. It sounds like he was out kayaking, something like that, up, enjoying the state, and got a nice photo from that. So good for him. Congratulations.
So again, what's better than getting engaged? Is it engaged or beating Peter Barker by 10 points? Or is it getting engaged or being the sorry Democrat that decides to hobble through the primary and get probably mollywopped by 14 points?
Which is how it's looking like it's going to be this cycle. I think the DCCC is looking at the 3 candidates now that are running for the Democrat slot in that congressional district, and they have to be a little bit disappointed because our latest candidate, Gage Stills,
close to Stiles. It would be funny if it was Stiles versus Stiles, like Bryan Steil, Steil versus this guy Stiles,
Gage,
Styles or something.
Gage Stills, a Racine native and first-time political candidate, is running for Congress in the 1st District on a progressive platform he says will bring a working-class perspective. And what's interesting about that is absolutely nothing other than we already have 2 candidates who are running on a progressive platform for working-class voters, and one of them is Randy Bryce, and the other one is the most recent candidate, the nurse fella, who was accused of being a mega plant because he had a
leather jacket
in one of his pictures.
Like he may have driven a motorcycle at one time.
He had an American flag head covering for being for his medical.
Just a wild. That should tell you everything you should know. You need to know about the the polarization of American politics, where you cannot wear an American headband and be considered a Democrat. And the fact that the Democrat grassroots police their own so much so that you can't wear an American flag, maybe because the Democrat grassroots believe that the American flag is antithetical to what they believe America is. But that is for another discussion. If we want to get into all that semantics, nuanced national talk, if it ever dies down, I'm more than happy to have that. The people that I talk to about that would probably hate the fact that I brought that up because I talk about it all the time. But that'd be a great another conversation. But Bryan Steil, he's going to buzzsaw.
Yeah, what this comes down to, again, you have 3 candidates who are talking about the same thing, and Gage Stills here is in his opening announcement talking about universal health care and green jobs and bringing those to the district. But no different than Randy Bryce or Mitchell Berman and the nurse who just declared. So you have 3 people that the DCCC is probably looking at going, we have to write this one off already because you have none of them are going to be able to raise any money, and Bryan Steil's way out ahead on that. So I think at the end of the day, because there's 3 candidates, I still think now that Randy Bryce actually will be able to pull it off in the primary just through name ID and brute force as opposed to actual campaigning.
I think you may be very well correct. I'm still going with Mitchell Berman just because he seems like he will be the anointed candidate. So some of the Obama money, some of that more establishment money will go to him. And again, I'm assuming that by the fall reporting date, we'll have a better outlook about what the actual race, the Democrat primary for the 1st Congressional District actually looks like. And before the computer crapped out, we talked about we're going to do a prediction episode.
Yes. We're going to keep a rolling list of our predictions. We're going to do some prediction episodes. So we're going to have to hold ourselves accountable and declare if our predictions are going to come true, or we're going to have to come up with some sort of scoring system for them.
Excuse me.
So, yeah.
Perfect. All right.
So with that, actually, can we play a little game, Shadow Gov?
Let's play a game.
So I'm going to read...
Saw style. Let's play a game.
So I'm going to read the headlines and maybe some of the first lines in some press releases. And you're going to guess which member of the Wisconsin State Congressional Delegation...
Wisconsin State?
Yes.
Delegation. Gotcha.
Wrote these press releases. So all of our members of Congress, these were written by someone.
Okay.
So the first one was the most recent one, written August 22nd. The legislator in question here makes some comments on Trump's election strategy. After President Trump met with Vladimir Putin in Alaska, he claimed he would end mail-in voting in the United States at Putin's recommendation.
Based.
So that's one. Second press release came August 15th. Condemns Trump's environmental rollbacks. This summer, with the Trump administration issuing many policies removing environmental protections and clean energy investments, these policies included restricting wind and solar tax credits, eliminating the EPA's endangerment findings of 6 greenhouse gases, and introducing new barriers to green energy permitting. And the final press release condemns national Republicans for withholding the Epstein files. Now, that was written on July 16th. So which member of the Wisconsin congressional delegation wrote those press releases?
Alex, what is Gwen Moore for $500?
Wah, 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 wah. So that, of course, is a trick question. Those are not from members of the Wisconsin House delegation. That was from Representative Randy Udell of the 47th Assembly District in Fitchburg, Wisconsin.
I've been bamboozled.
You were bamboozled, because I cannot understand why a member of the Wisconsin State Legislature is writing press releases condemning the Trump administration for what they're doing when you have a whole host of things to do in the state legislature itself.
So, to be completely fair to Representative Udell, I am going to take the contrarian take. I'm going to actually defend him.
Okay.
I'm going out on a limb for a Democrat. Mark your calendars here. I'm defending a Democrat. Representative Udell represents Fitchburg, suburb of Madison, which represents a different kind of Democrat. This is not the blue-haired. This is not the homeless Madisonite. This is
unhoused.
This is not the trans Madisonite. This is not the homeless, blue-haired trans Madisonite.
Right.
This is the Social Security American. This is the retired,
this is the
old
boomer,
white lady, boomer.
Blue Anon.
That, they like the fact that they live in Dane County. They're close to Madison for a dinner out.
Yes.
But then they retreat to their Fitchburg suburb to enjoy, so they don't have to deal with the shenanigans.
The hoi polloi of the Democratic Party.
Or to deal with like UW students on a Friday or Saturday.
Right.
This Fitchburg is the atypical, affluent, liberal, white boomer. And Representative Udell is perfectly representing them. What do they care about? The Democrats don't have the legislature. Tony Evers is the governor. The Republicans aren't doing anything majorly horrible. The budget they just passed, Democrats and Republicans kind of hate it, although Democrats seem to be hating it more than Republicans. So what do they actually care about? They care about the big, beautiful bill. They care about Trump deporting illegal immigrants. They care about the fact that they're ignoring the courts, or that they're trying to, or the fact that you name it.
Well, they're not releasing the Epstein files, which apparently were a thing until they weren't.
Any contrarian take about Trump, they have it.
Well,
and what is Udell doing? He's directly appealing to his voters. His constituents are contacting him about Trump. And so what does he do? He messages to his constituents.
I suppose you're right. And, he does fit that bill of a boomer lib type. So, and then you probably would love it even more that his press releases are written in Calibri.
Light.
Standard font. No letterhead. Nothing.
Not a bold, not an italicized.
Nope.
Not even a simple reference at the bottom of the press release.
Nope. There's the
Nothing.
There's the 3 pound signs, which apparently mean something.
Yeah. What? Who started that?
I don't know.
Where did that come from?
That's a good question for the
why 1 pound?
The
sign?
journos.
Why any pound signed?
But that is every one of his press releases looks exactly the same. Which I think, first off, is bad staff work that's not even on the letterhead.
Well, first of all, I would like to just state something for the record. It will, regardless, Calibri, light, bold, Times New Roman, regardless of the font, it will never top, and I don't mean to flame her, but Lakeisha Myers, representative from Milwaukee, she worked at MPS. She might still work at MPS as like an assistant principal or something, but she worked in the legislature. She ran for state senate against Representative Drake.
That's right.
And there may have been one other one that I forget. She lost the primary, so she's no longer in the assembly. She posted a press release, or probably her staff posted a press release. Wrote the press release, took a phone, took a picture of the computer screen.
Oh, my goodness.
With the press release. So the press release read, but then it had all the like horizontal lines from all the from all the computer.
The pixelation.
I don't know. Yeah, the pixelation. Regardless, you could tell that it was someone with an iPhone taking a picture of a computer screen and then posting it online as if PNGs to PDF websites don't exist.
Well,
so
not quite.
It could be worse.
It could be worse. But for Representative Udall, the one thing that's worse right now is the fact that he has written 3 press releases condemning the Trump administration for something while authoring himself 2 total proposals this session of the legislature. The first one, or the most recent one, is eliminating constitutional restrictions on marriage. The second one, proclaiming May 16th, 17th, and 18th of 2025 as Stendi Mai weekend, which I'm going to pronounce wrong, but that's Norwegian Constitution Day.
Hey, maybe he's got a lot of Nords in his district.
He might, and that's fine. I'm guessing with the last name, but still.
I mean, Nords, Norway and Fitchburg probably share the same demographic makeup.
That's probably true.
Very wider than cottage cheese, probably.
That is probably true. But the fact is, he hasn't even found a Republican assembly member to author some, fix to our statutes that brings us in line with
but that
federal
would go
stuff.
Against the religion of Fitchburg.
Which is just working with a Republican or getting anything done?
Yeah, probably both,
But, yep, we'll have to keep an eye on the representative to see when his next anti-Trump press release comes out. And speaking of, though, actual members of Congress, we're going to file this story under It Should Upset You Way More Than You Think. I'm going to read from a letter written by Tom Tiffany to the Attorney General regarding the Lac du Flambeau band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. And he says that, as you know, on January 30th, 2023, the tribal government began denying public passage of 4 tribal-owned roads, going so far as to construct roadblocks. These blockades restricted the ability of several dozen town residents to leave their homes, created a dangerous situation that impeded access for emergency services, and made it more difficult for people to obtain basic necessities like groceries and prescription medications. The tribal government then sought a staggering $20 million in damages from the town. This was a life-threatening situation, and to restore public access, the town was forced to comply with this extortion racket by paying monthly installments to tribal government in order to keep the roads open. The total sum handed over by the town in connection with the tribe's demands amounts to over $600,000, far more than the appraised value of the roads, which were assessed at approximately $79,000. So, as the representative said, the Lac du Flambeau band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians are basically organized crime, going to these these homes and saying it's a nice road if you want to keep it, and pay us some money.
So I have one solution, and I have 2 solutions.
Oh boy!
Well, maybe 3, maybe 2 suitable for a podcast. 1, send in the National Guard.
Take back our roads.
DC, they did it to DC. They're going to apparently go to Chicago. Then they're going to go to New York next, apparently, with these federal agents. Well, might I suggest Lac du Flambeau tribe gets a visit from the National Guard. Second option, unfortunately, we need a Republican governor to do this. Mm-hmm. I love talking about this. Love it. There is a little known part of Wisconsin history called the Wisconsin Defense Force.
Okay.
It is a private defense military style unit that serves at the behest of the governor.
Really?
Yes. That has been defunct since World War II.
Oh, thank God.
But it's
Maggie Gow would be marching on us right now.
It's a real thing, though. The governor has the power to, I'm sure, to bring it back. But they basically served as the National Guard of Wisconsin when the National Guard of Wisconsin was serving in World War II. So World War II happens, National Guard goes over and fights, serves overseas.
So you want to remobilize the
Wisconsin Defense Force and to basically
take back our roads.
A Wisconsin National Guard, but essentially serves at the pleasure of the governor. It's like, because the National Guard can be federalized and be moved around pretty much. Sure. The way I read it, the Wisconsin Defense Force wouldn't have that. They only obey the state or the governor. So a Republican governor can mobilize a Wisconsin Defense Force, and essentially needless to say, the Democrats would hate it, which is why I would love it, which is why mobilize the Wisconsin Defense Force to go into Milwaukee County and straighten out the crime. You don't even need the National Guard. Or Wisconsin Defense Force. Hey, Lac de Flambeau tribe, why are you extorting Wisconsin taxpayers for $20 million, you absolute very naughty words that I want to say right now? Instead, so the very small town of 3,000 people gave $600,000, which 3,000 people
in essential extortion.
Yes, it is an extortion racket. I mean, for God's sake, you'd rather pay the mafia because at least you get protection as a part of it. No, they're just like, nah, screw it. You can't use basic roads, which they probably got potholes and other crap too. So talk about the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. Good on Tom Tiffany for bringing a not so well-known issue to the forefront. Great constituent work, the great local government work on the part of Tom Tiffany I would have never heard about this.
No, but it's another one that if you read about it, it should piss you off. And thankfully, there was also a federal judge ruled that homeowners in the Lac de Flambeau have the right to access their homes even though the town roads traversed tribal land. So congratulations to homeowners for being able to access your road.
Thank you for being able to tell, that you have an ability to reach your own home. Water is wet, more at 10 p.m.
Now, hopefully, Attorney General Pam Bondi sees this letter, forces Lac de Flambeau to pay back this money in, again, and stop the extortion racket they're running. But this also...
Can we just strip the Indians of all their special privileges they get?
It's one way to do it, too.
Sure, I get it. They got special blankets, 100 years ago or whatever. 150 years ago, more than 150 years ago. But now they don't have to pay taxes and they get free college.
And stipends for their casino gambling.
Yeah.
Understand that.
What if all Wisconsin residents got a little cut of that casino money? Maybe I'd be more supportive of gambling all of a sudden.
Well, the thing that I draw these comparisons to is there are a lot of tribes in the state that are actually buying real estate right now and trying to work with county and local governments about roads and sharing access to certain roads. And I hope that, other communities see what the Lac de Flambeau did to this community and maybe step back from those partnerships that they had with those other tribes, because this is, again, the extortion they're running here could be run at a number of other places, a number of other roads and communities across the state. So
the Indians are kind of like, they're lobbyists, but they're more ingratiated in a way. And like a lobbyist, you can't totally trust them. Kind of like the realtors, we're Republican-based and we like Republicans and we're going to donate to Republicans. But the minute we get cold feet, to be fair, like any other lobbying group, we're going to maybe switch sides and play both sides a little bit more. So I'm not trying to say that the realtors are the worst thing ever, but you can I understand why people play both sides. I don't like it, but then again, that's politics. Indians are the same.
So, in other things that if you watch them or you pay attention to the article, you'll get pissed off. I want to talk about the WIAA, the Interscholastic School Sports Association here in the state. So, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty just put out this very nice 5.5-minute video that we're going to link to our show notes. We tweeted it already this week. About Macy Weigel, who was wrongly sidelined by the WIAA over transfer rules, and Will stepped in and allowed her to play sports. And the same thing that happened to Macy is happening to a other young man in the town of Oconomowoc, who recently was told by the WIAA that he couldn't play for Arrowhead High School in football because he moved there recently after his family home in Kettle Moraine School District became unlivable after a 2023 fire. So right now, Tristan Seidel has a complaint in Waukesha County Circuit Court going on, alleging that the WIAA acted outside of its lawful authority to prevent Tristan from playing high school football at Arrowhead. So this article in the Journal Sentinel, written by Zach Bellman, who's I believe the high school sports reporter for at least the area. So this lawsuit goes on to say that the family had to move several times, including becoming a more permanent residence just recently, after the family learned in March of 2025 that their Dousman home had to be demolished. So they moved from Dousman to the town of Oconomowoc, and WIAA said that your home burning down is not a reason for you to have to transfer schools, which should be, again, insulting to anyone, that an organization lacking any basic transparency, any basic sense, and just arcane bureaucracy getting in the way of kids playing sports. And what's worse than this is, and I don't know about the first situation, Macy, the softball player. In this situation, Tristan Seidel had an opportunity to play football for the University of Sioux Falls with a scholarship. And he's at risk of losing that scholarship because the WIAA says he can't play for Arrowhead, even though both schools don't object to the transfer. So another issue that, if you're reading it, should piss you off.
Well, this is why people hate government. And although the WIAA isn't necessarily a state local government entity,
they're quasi-government.
They're even worse than government. They are a unelected bureaucracy that isn't accountable to voters, and yet they get to make these.
Well, not just unaccountable to voters, they're unaccountable to the parents.
Yeah,
the student athletes.
I almost said a bad word again, and I shouldn't. But the fact is, give a guy a break.
Yeah.
I mean,
let the kid play.
He just wants to play some football. He's only got 4 years. Depending on how old he is, he might have even been robbed a year because of COVID. So he might be already down a year. Let the guy play football where he wants to play. The WIA, you should be only concerned with major violations. The school doesn't have a problem with it. Yep. Why should you? Just let the guy play. This shouldn't be a story. I hope Will comes in, sues the absolute crap out of the WIA. Again.
This would be like the third time this has happened in recent memory.
Well, last year, they had the scenario with Josh running track, and Senator Dewey Strobel spearheaded, I know, that effort.
Yeah, that was the run, Let Josh Run or Run Josh Run campaign, so that's where we come up with
something like that.
Yeah.
But they did a great job of drawing attention to it, and eventually the WIA actually caved.
Yes.
Which was good. I mean,
and they did it again with the softball player, and I think she was in the Baraboo area. Mm-hmm. So I do want to read a little bit more from this article that the suit accuses WIAA of unlawful exercise of government power. As a private entity not granted the authority to exercise governmental power by any governmental entity, the WIAA has no statutory power to bind public schools to a decision unless the legislature makes that possible. The second cause of action calls for a review of a decision, calls the WIAA arbitrary, capricious, and contrary to the law. So not only do I hope that that Will comes in and smacks down the WIAA again, I think the WIAA is a wholly corrupt bureaucratic organization that is getting money from student athletes, from schools, again, I guess from taxpayers, and not getting any value from it. And I would consider it a failure of the legislature to not look at what WIAA is doing and was done over the past couple of cycles and not react and not reform the organization. More transparency, more opportunity for students to transfer for whatever reason. Frankly, I don't care if it's a move. If you just don't like the coach, or again, you should be able to play for the school you want to play for. It's not that hard. When you have high school students getting NIL deals now, there should be more accountability, transparency, and new leadership at the WIAA, because again, what you have now is a corrupt bureaucracy.
I've got nothing to add. I'm going to let that stand as is.
Letting that one.
Job.
I appreciate that. But on that, we have a couple more quick hitters. I think we wanted to go through just to
like state kind of for the record
things that kind of get Shadow Governor Voss wound up. So we're going to put a quarter in his back and just pull the string and let him go.
So first of all, the depraved illegal alien sentenced to 40 years in prison today for buying a 12-year-old girl for $250.
Yeah, we should throw a trigger warning on this one. This is
not exactly for the faint of heart.
Yeah, this story is disgusting. If you're anyone with common decency, let alone a parent or just a good person. So
the mom sold her own flesh and blood for
$250,
basically your utilities bill.
Yep.
Essentially.
So she sold it to an illegal alien, and he was recently sentenced to 40 years in prison.
And she got 33.
Yes.
So in Fond du Lac County,
quite frankly, seems a little light. But I understand that that's the maximum sentences, and we do want to highlight and shout out Eric Toney for doing the work to get this done.
Yeah, and kudos to the judge for giving a max sentence. I feel like that doesn't happen all that often.
Well, outside of Milwaukee County.
Well, and again, Milwaukee County, you realize that you have these people that are continual, habitual reoffenders. Maybe if you lock them up for more than, I don't know, getting out on bail for free and they commit another crime, maybe, just maybe, we can over-police our way out of this and maybe just sentence people to jail. And maybe they won't be able to then impinge on the freedom of taxpayers that actually, don't commit crimes. But,
no, still.
Forgive me for having an idea that is outside the liberal framework. So
absolutely disgusting that a woman would traffic her own daughter.
Oh, 100%.
For any amount of money. And so thankfully those people are behind bars. Hopefully the minute that illegal alien finishes his prison sentence, he's thrown far away from this country. If he makes it through his whole sentence, which, wouldn't be sad if he didn't.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to the whole eye for an eye, and maybe we should reevaluate what foreign nationals do to American citizens. Now, I don't know the full context. I don't know. I believe the illegal alien was illegal from, I believe, South or Central America. The mother, I believe, was also of Hispanic descent. Yes. So I don't know if she was. And they didn't specify if she was illegal. Still horrible regardless.
Yep. But thank you to Eric Toney and the criminal justice system in Fond du Lac for doing its job properly and putting bad people behind bars.
Yeah, no, great stuff from Eric Toney for that. And good on the jury, judge. I always kind of want to be on a jury. I'd always love to be on a jury for something like that. But at the same time, for such a horrific crime, you have to imagine the jury had to see some things
deliberations had, if it even got that far. I don't know if that was just they had to plead guilty because it was so obvious, but either way, bad people behind bars.
Mm. Well, next on the list, we have slightly better optics. Today, we're recording Friday, August 22nd. It just turned midnight because of our little hiccup with technology. So it's actually
technological kerfuffle put us a little back.
Sorry about that, folks. But we started recording this on Friday the 22nd. Was the 5th anniversary of the Kyle Rittenhouse moment. Kyle Rittenhouse captured the world, captured the United States, captured Wisconsin with his actions of fleeing from a mob, away from the mob, running to the police line, letting him know that he was coming and on his way after he shot an unalived Rosenbaum. I can't remember his first name.
The fact that you have that in the memory, I can barely remember that. I remember
Jason?
The images, but not
Jason
the names.
Rosenbaum. All I know is that he had stippling on his fingers. So for those that don't know, stippling is kind of like the gunpowder residue from the barrel of the gun after you shoot it. There's kind of a stippling effect from the gas and the gunpowder that comes out of the barrel, basically showing that Rosenbaum. I can't remember the guy's name. I just remember it was Rosenbaum.
Okay.
He was reaching for the gun, and when Kyle Rittenhouse shot him, came and I think he shot him a couple times, but one was right by his temple or something. But he was reaching out, and so there was stippling this effect on his hands, meaning he was reaching and he was close enough to the barrel of the gun to have this effect, basically justifying that Kyle Rittenhouse.
He was attacking Kyle Rittenhouse.
If you're grabbing someone's gun, it doesn't mean that you're trying to, hello, how are you doing type of thing. So, and then of course, also, without any other context, when Trump was shot back in Butler, Pennsylvania, that random bullet happened to kill
a family man,
firefighter, comprador. What was his first name?
Corey
Comprador, who was trying to shield his daughters and his wife from the oncoming bullets and was killed as a result. But when Kyle Rittenhouse happened to run into these crazed BLM thugs, he happened to kill a pedophile and a deadbeat. So coincidence? I don't know.
I think it's a good reminder. 5-year anniversary of the failure by Tony Evers to control the Kenosha situation following the Jacob Blake shooting, which in fact itself was a justified shooting because if I recall correctly, Jacob Blake was attacking a police officer with a knife, which again spiraled out of control. And I think it really just overall speaks to the absolute cultural rot that took place alongside COVID in that 18, 19, 2020, 2021 window.
And of course, to set the record straight, Tony Evers would say, well, I did call in the National Guard. Yeah. Tony Evers called in the National Guard after Kenosha was already burnt to a crisp.
That was when we got the fiery but mostly peaceful.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that will forever haunt me as a political nutcase, hack, whatever you want to call me, terminally online person, is the fact that Tony Evers never faced judgment for his actions at Kenosha. His inaction at Kenosha. And the fact that so many people really just as a result of 2020, whether it was COVID, whether it was the riots, they got off kind of scotch-free, and a lot of Democrat incumbents won. Like the Gretchen Whitmers of the world that locked up grandma and grandpa in the nursing home, only to wither away lonely, away from their family as they potentially, were on death's door or passed away. Tony Evers in action, and they'll say, I called in the National Guard only in the 9th hour after Kenosha had burned to the ground. After the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, did he call in the National Guard? So the damage was already done. Did he call in the National Guard? So the absolute fecklessness of the Tony Evers legacy will forever live on, and I just hope no one ever forgets that. We're
going to have to when the time comes, and I know tonight's a good night, but sometime we'll have to, when we get again, we talk about getting a slow time and kind of revisiting some topics or going more in depth on some things. We'll have to do a whole thing on never forgetting how, liberal governors, especially, Tony Evers, Gretchen Whitmer, and others reacted to COVID and what we were forced to do and how ridiculous that looks in hindsight. And again, Tony Evers' failure in Kenosha to get a hold of that situation before things got out of control, before there was fiery but mostly peaceful protests.
To be fair, that was at least before Britt Cutterback was the official. That was before she was using her girlfriend to get a promotion.
Fair enough.
So
but
maybe if Britt was the comms person, Governor Evers would have had a better response. But
now we still have some stuff that the Governor Evers and his administration is doing that shouldn't sit well with the listeners.
I would like to also state we are at the same point now that we were before we lost all that juicy content. Although I think we're doing a pretty good job.
I think we're doing a good job. I think we're pushing through. I think
we're remembering a lot of stuff we talked about.
We got some spicy takes in there still.
Yep. And I think we also had some new content. So actually, I think this is the better recording.
So what you're saying is from now on, we need to tank an entire podcast. Have your laptop update and then do it all over again.
No, we don't need to drink a half a bottle of bourbon to get good ideas. That being said, though, Tony Evers, again, pushing to overrule the assembly committees on oversight for administrative rules. Last week, if you're an avid listener, or that AWL, you would have heard about how Tony Evers was circumventing the legislature for overview of state employee pay raises. So, like a lot of these things that affect the departments go through the legislature for final say. Some of it's a formality, some of it's contentious, depends on what it is. I do think the pay raises would have been probably pretty standard. They wouldn't have been controversial, and they would have been approved.
No, it was another thing that Tony Evers did in a different way that made it controversial.
Correct. This money was approved in the budget. It would have been probably approved by the committee that it was in front of, which was the Employee Relations Committee. So it was more of a formality, but Evers went out of his way specifically to say, no, ignore that committee. Don't even bother and approve it anyway. To his administration. Well, he's done it again. And this time with administrative rules. Administrative rules carry the same weight as state statute, but these rules are created by the departments to basically enact the associated state statutes. So these rules go through a process where they're developed, and then they go to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regulations, and they are finally approved. So rules are created, they go to the legislature, they're yay or nay, and then if they are, they'll be live, essentially. Well, Evers is just saying, administration, you come up with a rule, just act on it. You're good. No problem. No oversight. Despite Tony Evers running in 2018 as the transparency candidate against Scott Walker. Well, that's been a load of crock if I ever heard it. And here he is doing something similar where, no, you don't need to listen to the legislature, which has been democratically elected, which has the most checks and balances, which is the most close to the people. Nope, don't listen to that at all. Just ignore them and create your own rules.
Yeah, and so the rules we're talking about aren't minuscule things. We're talking about wolf management. We're talking about water quality, things that left of center to left wing organizations are telling Tony Evers what to do. You have organizations like the Clean Wisconsin, an environmental advocacy group is now telling Tony Evers what rules to write and then ignoring the legislature for it. You have people who want to delist the wolf and talk about population management, and Evers is saying no to that and telling the DNR just what to do. So certainly ones that are way more controversial than just,
And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
I'm sure Evers is using the justification from the liberal Supreme Court that he won. He won the case where the money was approved in the budget. There was a stewardship program that would have been affected, and yet the Joint Finance Committee did not approve the money. So even though it was approved in the budget, the Joint Finance Committee did not release the money. Therefore, they sued over that. They said, well, it's already approved. Therefore, technically, it's good to go. We don't need to listen to the committee. They're using that justification to basically override any assembly or assembly or legislature, any legislative committee that has any oversight. So very dangerous. This is honestly probably in my opinion, one of the biggest stories of the week, and it completely went unnoticed.
It's because
most people.
It's too complicated to really explain easily, and
it's really hard. Yeah. So I apologize if that was kind of a convoluted.
We'll probably have to revisit this at some point because this probably isn't the last time this is going to happen. And what we're going to see though is, they may come to regret doing this. If we get a Republican governor and Republican legislature, all of a sudden we start running some stuff through rules without, and doing administrative rules without that check and balance that's been created because, Evers felt like he could. We're either going to have the Supreme Court have to go back on their word and they got to look like hypocrites, which
I doubt.
Or the Republicans are once again going to be allowed to play by the rules that the Democrats created and
fully exploit it.
And we're seeing it in other areas and in other states that, we have to, as a Republican Party and as elected officials, we have to stop being the polite ones and playing by the rules that the Dems created. And if that means taking advantage of things, it means taking advantage of things. So they may come to regret how they did this. So one last article we want to talk about just briefly.
We are now past the point of the last recording, so we are in the green. Fingers crossed that we get this right. Article from the New York Times, but need to kind of talk about this pastor in general that's making waves. I think we're going back down to Kenosha. Correct. So the New York Times article is he tried to endorse from the pulpit. He wound up without a church. And reality is, we have an ELCA, which is the liberal side of Lutheran. Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. The progressive Lutherans, pastor, wanted to endorse AOC during Mass. Yes. Now, this is what makes this most interesting is the fact that previously the policy was of the IRS is that in order to maintain a non-taxable nonprofit status, they couldn't endorse people for office, for churches. Now, Trump was seeking a change in IRS rules to allow for this, so that, to support basically conservatives, because most churches are right of center, I would say. Yep. Although that is changing, but for the most part, I would think it's safe to say that most churches are right of center. So this would help conservatives, for pastors and spiritual leaders to be able to influence their constituency, which is their parish, for one candidate or another. Now, the only flip side of things is that there are liberal pastors. There are liberal and it's not ideologies. It's not just the Unitarian Universalists. It's not just the Jesuits. Well, so the interesting part was this pastor, and I use that word loosely. So his name is Jonathan Barker, who has been in the news several times, but I'll let you lead off. I'll go into his background. Well, the only context I'll give to you, now mind you, the ELCA is a fairly liberal church body. Mm-hmm. They have the gay, they have the female pastors, they have the female gay pastors. Okay? Mm-hmm. But the line apparently is not heresy, it is endorsing a candidate. And apparently the bishop for this area said, no, you shouldn't do this. So this pastor left. And when he did his media interview, he said, no, he didn't say. On his shirt said, Jesus would have wanted a Green New Deal. So that's just you should know everything you need to know about the guy. Just manipulating scripture. 100%. But no, this isn't the first time he's been in the news. Now, this guy's been a real POS for a while. So he, has made the news several times, been arrested several times for left-wing progressive protesting. You may remember him for going on a 12-day hunger strike to persuade Wisconsin politicians to act on climate change, which he did in February of 2019. You may remember him from I believe he glued his feet to the Pfizer Forum or near the Pfizer Forum, super glued him to the concrete during the RNC. It just, not only did he have a T-shirt that said Jesus would demand a Green New Deal, that was his book. So just a real piece of work. Yeah, just going out there, manipulating scripture, and of course getting the New York Times to write about it. Someone who looks like he just needs to get smacked in the mouth, quite frankly. So everyone knows as well, this guy does not represent the general Protestant, Lutheran, conservative, right of center Protestant outlook. Okay, this ELC. The problem is the ELCA, and this is getting into a very in the weeds discussion, which I won't go into. The ELCA is a very liberal Lutheran outfit, and the fact that he's even more liberal than them should say everything you need to know. He is an exception. He's not the rule as far as Lutherans or Protestants go. Although a broader discussion could be made about Protestantism in America and how it has shifted a lot to the left, and how, frankly, leftism is antithetical to Christian ethics and Christianity as a whole. But that being said, he left on his own power. They didn't force him out. He did this on his own power. And I guess we'll see where that takes him. Probably to some Democrat nonprofit, but
yeah, he'll be running for Congress. Maybe as another one of the candidates against Bryan Steil or some other, left wing NGO that he can suck money from without doing any real good for anyone. But speaking of someone who did some real good for someone, we've buried the story. We wanted to hit it at the end. There is one person who needs to be talked about as the GOAT of the week. Just a guy who, once again, absolutely crushed it. Saving lives, Derrick Van Orden.
Mad props. DVO, I mean, how can you not love the man? You watch his Twitter account. He goes after Mark Pocan, in his spare time. When he's not tweeting at Mark Pocan, he's passing the big, beautiful bill. When he's not passing the big, beautiful bill, he's saving the life of an 11-year-old boy.
Yes.
When he's not saving the life of an 11-year-old boy, he's saving the life of another person, which I believe he did last year, too.
Yep.
The man is either divinely inspired or just happens to be in the right place at the right time all the time. There was a car crash.
Yeah, so I'll read from the Fox News article.
Yeah, give us the full context.
He kind of gives the play-by-play. Van Orden, a former Navy SEAL, said he quickly pulled his car over and rushed back to the scene of a Dodge Grand minivan that drifted off the road at about 70 miles per hour. I ran to the passenger side where all the damage was. There was an 11-year-old kid. I looked at him, his calf, which was about as big as my thigh and was completely ripped apart. I could see his tibia and his fibula with a big chunk of him bleeding. And he had an arterial bleed on his right wrist, said Van Orden. By then, probably 10 people had pulled over to help. I'm getting chills reading this, man. This is heroic. I'm like, does someone have a knife? And they're like, yep. And so I cut the seatbelts off and made tourniquets, he added. Some big old Iowa farm dude, probably 60-something, rips off a windshield wiper for his arm, and then another lady there said she was a medic. She wound up grabbing a piece of metal and made a tourniquet on his leg, and then all of us packed him up and got him into the ambulance. It took about 10 to 15 minutes or he would have bled to death, Van Orden said. Noting paramedics were quick to respond, but were still miles away. He would have been gone. And Orden told the outlet that he was visiting a young man in the hospital on Monday, but he didn't have the boy's name. The crash was reported by Iowa State Patrol. Say the crash occurred when a minivan struck a semi-truck that was trying to merge on the freeway in the shoulder. Thankfully, there were no fatalities. Boy and the band's driver were both airlifted to a nearby hospital. But there is Derrick Van Orden saving lives. Now, flip side, if this was Mark Pocan, I'm not sure, first off, if he's allowed within 50 feet of an 11-year-old boy.
True.
But, he probably would have asked for pronouns and how the boy identifies before actually saving him. Parody, we're joking.
Mark Pocan probably would have been just screaming for, his life. Like any normal person would, probably.
This is the thing I was going to mention, is we all think in our minds that we're going to act like Derrick Van Orden did.
No.
Only Derrick Van Orden can say he would act like this. And again,
most people would probably freak out or keep on driving.
And they wouldn't know what to do.
They wouldn't know what to do. They'd probably freak out. Also, mad props to just the farmer guy.
Tourniquet out of a windshield wiper, some metal.
It's great because so DVO goes back to his suitcase, pulls out some socks, said, first of all, The only chastisement I have to give DVO is the fact that he didn't have a knife on him. Come on. Come on. You don't have a little pocket knife in your jeans, your little pocket there.
Sure.
But the fact that so eventually he did get a knife from someone.
Yep.
Made the tourniquet, and then had the I'm seeing it now. You have a big long tube sock. You get the windshield wiper. You put it in the middle, and then you use the windshield wiper to twist the tourniquet to actually close off the artery or close off the bleeding. And then the nurse or the healthcare professional that was there used a piece of metal to do the same thing with probably, I think, another person.
Yeah.
So just great work all around.
Heroic, just incredible stuff. And I got chills reading that. So DVO saving a life is just an incredible story.
And of course, Mark Bocan has been radio silent because nothing says an absolute bitter political hack like beating up on a man who just saved a child and who saved other people in the past, not even talking about his military service, where he probably did unspeakable things for your and my safety and Mark Bocan's safety, but yet he gets raked over the coals for being some horrible devil person who decided to side with Donald Trump in America for the big, beautiful bill. But you wouldn't know that based off of
we
comments.
Can't praise Derrick Van Orden enough for his heroic efforts.
God bless him. I love DVO.
Yeah.
I don't care that he says things that might be politically incorrect or whatever. The man is who he is, and he's 100% it. He doesn't. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about who DVO is, and he's on a pod. To take a script out of the white girl Instagram model. He's unapologetically himself. He is, and I just love him for it.
And that's where we're going to leave it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to drop us that 5-star rating where you can. Show notes can be found on our Substack, newfashionconservatives.substack.com. Make sure to sign up there so you're the first to be alerted about any of our new content. Follow us on X at New Fashion Pod, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube at New Fashion Conservatives. Send us memes, feedback, hate mail, whatever you want to send us to newfashionpod@gmail.com, or send us a text via the Spotify app, which can be found right on our page. And with that, we're out. Good night.